Good evening, it's meteorologist Michael Fecco. Welcome back to the 9 p.m. all-weather, all-streaming show that we do here every night during the workdays and on weekends. We stream it out to all of our streaming platforms as well as to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So if you are joining us from either of those platforms, please feel free to leave a question or a comment down below. We love interacting with you guys. Hopefully I'll be able to address anything as I go through the forecast, but if not, I'll go through at the very end and see if I can answer any questions and talk to you guys after the fact. But let's get started here with a look at our headlines. What are we keeping an eye on for the next several days? Well, it's going to be pretty cool and quiet through the rest of this weekend. We'll have temperatures warming back up into the low 80s for tomorrow and on Monday. And then we've got more rain on the way for next week along the leading edge of a cold front. Now, it's not going to be a widespread soaking rain, just a few showers, but more importantly is that's going to actually cool our temperatures down even more by the end of next week. So we're going to end up well below average. So if you've been a fan of these very cool, comfortable, almost fall-like conditions, I've got a little bit of a present for you at the very end of this forecast. But here's a look at the Doppler radar. So our setup across the U.S. right now has high pressure anchored just off to our northeast, kind of sitting right over the Ohio River Valley and just to the southeast of the Great Lakes there. On either side of that high, we have some unsettled weather going on, an area of low pressure kind of developing off the southeast coast, and then we've got another broad general area of low pressure off across the mountain west that has been providing some showers and clouds to areas like the Central Plains, and we're really not expecting anything from that to move into the tri-state with that high pressure to our north. That's going to keep things nice and quiet here, not only through tonight, but also for the next few days. Now looking at our temperatures from earlier today, we warmed all the way up into the lower 80s, 84 here in Evansville for our high. Just off to the southwest though, Paducah, 86 degrees and much cooler to the north, only around 78 in Indianapolis and 74 all the way up north towards Fort Wayne. So a lot of us feeling a little bit of that chill coming in from the north. And now our temperatures currently have cooled down a good bit since then. We're sitting at around 69 here in Evansville, 72 down towards Paducah and also into the upper 50s, lower 60s to our north. Now, looking at the Muggy meter, this is really what's been making the world of a difference, at least compared to just a few weeks ago. Our dew points are down into the 50s. So that is a drier air mass. That is why it feels so refreshing. Even when temperatures are still in the 80s, it feels very, very comfortable because there's essentially no humidity to contend with. So we'll hold on to that tonight. So another cool, dry night, a good night to leave those windows open. Hopefully you've been able to give your air conditioner a break over the last couple of days, and hopefully you'll be able to continue to give it a break through next week, considering that temperatures are only going to continue to cool down through then. So hopefully that helps out some folks. I know I'm leaving my windows open to let that cool, fresh air in. And looking at the rest of our Labor Day weekend forecast, as I mentioned before, it's going to stay pretty cool and quiet, mostly sunny once again tomorrow, maybe a few more clouds thrown into the mix compared to today. And then it looks like we'll have partly cloudy skies on Monday, but still mostly dry with temperatures in the low 80s. So we can track out everything through the rest of the night tonight. You'll notice some patchy areas of clouds begin to work their way in through the overnight hours, and they may even hang around through early tomorrow morning, but it does look like the skies will open back up with plenty of sunshine through Sunday afternoon. And then again, we'll see a few more clouds stream in Sunday night and into Monday as high pressure leaves us and pushes off to the northeast. That will allow at least some cloud cover to move in for actual Labor Day on Monday. But looking at our rain and storm chances here, again, dry through the start of the week, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is where we'll see our better chances for some scattered showers and storms. Again, not huge chances here, and it doesn't look like anything major or widespread, just a few little raindrops. I know it's been very dry out there. Many of us are kind of dying for some rain, but it just doesn't really look like we have anything major or widespread that'll give us a good soaking rain. We actually have developed some abnormally dry areas, which I'll touch on in just a moment, and that relates to a drought. But we'll talk about that. But first, let's get into what we can expect with this front. So high pressure slides off to our northeast starting Monday, but by Tuesday, a little bit more moisture will be returning up out of the south. So we could see, again, a few spot showers thrown in there, but not really expecting anything widespread. Same thing for Wednesday afternoon. It's not until Wednesday night into early Thursday morning that we see the front actually pass overhead, and that's where we'll see some better chances for the rain. But then behind it, high pressure builds in, dries us out, and cools us down. So you can actually see that there on the Climate Prediction Center outlook for precipitation September 5th through the 9th, highlighting us in that beigeish yellow color, showing that we'll end up slightly below average for rainfall. And looking at our August stats so far, we are already kind of running in a bit of a deficit for the month, over 2 inches below where we should be. However, looking at the year as a whole, we're still well into a surplus of over 8 inches of liquid equivalent precipitation. So we're not at a loss for the entire year, but if we do continue to see these drier conditions persist, then we may start to develop a little bit of a drought issue. So here's a look at the current drought monitor. This actually updates every Thursday. So this last update was just a few days ago, and you can see at least the bottom half of the tri-state everywhere south of I-64 showing abnormally dry conditions. Now that does not put us in a drought just yet, but if you look closely just off to our west and our east, you can see those beige areas. That does indicate some moderate drought conditions being observed through portions of Kentucky and even into southern Illinois, just not yet here in the tri-state. But I do want to talk a little bit about how drought kind of leads to more drought. It's very hard to break out of this drier pattern. That's because dry air leads to higher rates of evaporation. If you remember just a minute ago, I showed you that our dew points were all the way down in that dry category in the 50s. So while that helps our sweat evaporate and it feels really, really good to us, it also helps kind of wick out some of that moisture from the soil. And, you know, in addition to rainfall amounts and tracking out our rain and what's average, it also is important for drought concerns to monitor soil moisture content, which is different from just observed rainfall throughout the month. But as we have drier air continuing to stay over the same areas, this process continues, and then the drier the ground gets. So more and more moisture is just getting evaporated out of the soil, and then eventually you just end up in a drought. And it's kind of hard to break out of it because, unfortunately, this time of year, this is kind of the pattern where we see just a few of those pop-up showers and storms, which typically isn't really enough or widespread enough to really bust anyone out of any dry conditions. But it also does take a toll on incoming weather systems as well, and it makes them less likely to actually produce rainfall. What we need to break out of a drier pattern, not saying we're in a drought just yet, but we could be looking at that if this lack of rain continues. But we need more light to moderate rainfall to break the cycle. And it needs to be a little bit more frequent and widespread, more of just a rainy, cool day as opposed to a few showers that are hanging around. So unfortunately, doesn't really look like we have any good soaking rains in the forecast for the next 7 days, but one thing that may help us out a little bit is the temperatures are going to be on the cooler side, so that helps kind of reduce the amount of evaporation taking place. So while the air will still be dry, at least it'll be cooler and not as hot. But here's a look at those temperatures. I know I promised those fall levelers a little present at the end of this stream, and there it is. Temperatures down into the low to mid 70s, possibly by the end of next week. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a very long-lived fall break there, but it does cool us down nicely, and I'm sure many of us are just going to be walking outside and saying, feels so good out there, and the dew points also going down as well. They spike a little bit out ahead of that front, but not muggy or stifling kind of humidity, just your typical humidity there, and then once that front passes, that air will dry back out for the end of next week and into next weekend. So there's a look at your 7-day forecast. Just to kind of wrap everything up here. Nice and dry and quiet through the weekend. Cooler as well. Temperatures in the low 80s. And then that front will begin to move in through the middle of the work week. A few spotty showers possible Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon, but that front doesn't pass overhead until Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. And then we'll start to dry out towards the end of next week. And temperatures really, really dropping down there. And again, looking at highs only in the 70s. So hopefully my fall friends will enjoy the second half of this forecast. But that is all I have here with your weather. So I'm going to take a look at some of the comments real quick. It looks like Cheyenne is saying good evening. Good evening to you as well. Lenny also saying good evening, and Laura's watching from Dawson Springs. Lenny says he likes the warm weather, but you know, this is comfortable. I would say this is an agreeable pattern pattern with everybody. And then it's Jeanette says, good evening to you. So that is all I'm seeing here on our Facebook comments. So I'm going to hop off of the live stream. I'll send you guys over to 14 News at 14 News at 10 for all the latest news and weather headlines. Until then, everybody, have a great rest of your night and stay safe.